Unfortunately, today news about Ukraine is not always on the front pages of American media. Some people even think that the war is mostly over. Tragically, the war is far from over, and Ukrainians continue to be killed and tortured by the Russian occupants daily. Ukrainians must find shelters from daily attacks on civilian dwellings, infrastructure, maternity hospitals, and kindergartens. 10 years have already passed since Ukrainian Crimea and Donbass were first occupied by Russian troops. And now, as we are approaching the second anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion, it is our duty and responsibility not to let the world to forget about Ukraine. We must constantly remind the world of the price that Ukrainians are paying daily to have a peace and stability in Europe, and to counter Russian aggression against the entire democratic and free world. We shall not forget, freedom is not free, but so long as Ukrainians are able to stay in the fight against Russia, American mothers and fathers don't have to send their children to defend them against the enemy. The nuclear warheads that were directed toward the US were voluntarily given up by Ukraine in 1994 so that Americans would enjoy the security and happiness of the peace established after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Under the Budapest Memorandum, Ukraine, in exchange for American promise of protection, gave up extremely valuable consideration, the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, and was left completely vulnerable. We all know and still believe in the American dream, but I must ask, can we still believe in the American promise? It is something that used to have enormous value, and I sincerely wish to believe that it continues to have value today. Whether America will stand with Ukraine until its victory, or whether politicians on the Hill will continue their bickering and pleasing Putin, showing their inability to reach unity and consensus, it will show the entire world the true value of American promise holds today. The war in Ukraine holds significant implications for global stability, human rights, diplomatic and international relations, and even for a state of global ecology. Focusing on such issues is critical for many reasons, but essentially it goes to basic human values: to stand on the side of light and to fight evil, to choose right and to counter what is wrong, to stand for freedom and democracy, to stand against another genocide and not to allow the creation of another Soviet empire. But for those who are more calculating and practical people, aiding Ukraine underscores American leadership, which has been undermined by Russia. Helping Ukraine stimulates and benefits the American economy because 90% of the funds that the US allocates for Ukraine is spent right here on American soil, therefore directly benefiting American economy. Moreover, were Ukraine to fail, Russia's next target will be a NATO country, and then Americans would be obligated by treaty to send its troops there. The American people have a unique power that can help Ukraine. As constituents and voters, they can deliver their support for Ukraine to their representatives in Congress. This collective voice of the American nation is the most important, and as important as never before, because you can change the course of history. You can save the lives of millions of innocent Ukrainian children by simply delivering your voice to your representative. Call your representative in Congress. Call Speaker Johnson and tell them, support Ukraine now. In an era where information is easily disseminated, and it's essential to counter misinformation and disinformation. Keeping the war in Ukraine at the forefront ensures that accurate and objective information reaches the public, fostering more informed and engaged global citizenry capable of critically evaluating the events and policies related to the war. The ongoing war in Ukraine has resulted in severe humanitarian crisis. Since February 24, 2022, millions of people have been affected by Russian violence, the disruption of their peaceful lives and displacement from their homes. This includes not only those who have been displaced within Ukraine, but also refugees who have to seek shelter in neighboring countries and even here in the United States. Thousands of Ukrainians have lost their lives, and many more have been injured as a direct result of this terrible war. Thousands of children were forcibly taken from their families to different regions of Russia and still remain there scared, intimidated, forced to re-education with no opportunity to see their loved ones. Many suffer from trauma and stress-related disorders as a consequence of living in a war zone for 10 years. The Ukrainian soldiers who have been taken hostage by Russia are held in inhumane conditions while being tortured with hunger, cold, physical, and terrible psychological abuse. This is not just another conflict or territorial war. This is a genocide that actually began 100 years ago. But 100 years ago, the world turned a blind eye when 10 million Ukrainians were killed and starved to death just for their national identity and their desire to be a free nation. We cannot allow that to happen today again, and Manor shall be at the forefront, serving as a strong voice of truth about Ukraine. We will never forget our fallen angels of the Heavenly 100. We will never forget the brave men and women who have sacrificed their lives as true heroes in Donbass, Kherson, Mariupol, Avdiivka, and many Ukrainian cities and villages. Eternal memory to those heroes. We will never forget about your sacrifice, and we will never forgive. We will demand justice for all victims of the genocidal war, and we shall always remember that Ukraine is us, all of us together in our unity. Glory to Ukraine and glory to her heroes. Слава Україні і її героям!